Hello, and welcome to the live Printing Impressions webinar, Production Inkjet's Role in Omnichannel Communications, sponsored by SuperWeb. I'm Mark Michelson, Editor-in-Chief of Printing Impressions and the host of today's event. Before we get started, let me take a second to point out the Tips for Attendees widget on your console. It's the blue one with the wrench on it. If you missed the Tech Tips video we played leading up to the webinar, you can always click this widget for more information. All right, let's get on with today's topic. You know, many full-service marketing communications companies are trying to figure out how to integrate their digital printing capabilities, including Production Inkjet, with social media, electronic forms of advertising, and direct mail. To help address those dilemmas, we have two featured presenters who will tackle those issues from different perspectives. Well-known industry analyst Jim Hamilton will lead off with some general observations about Production Inkjet adoption, as well as some key findings from a customer engagement technologies state of the market study done by Infotrends last year. Jim serves as Group Director responsible for Infotrends production hardware consulting services in the area of production, copying, and digital printing, wide format, and labels and packaging. Jim will be followed by Alan Thompson, co-owner of Flex Digital, a Birmingham, Alabama-based provider of marketing and advertising services. Alan will describe his company's 35-year journey from what started out as a mail sort bureau into a full-service agency offering highly sophisticated print production, creative, marketing, and programming services. We also have Dustin Groutman, Senior VP of Sales and Marketing at SuperWeb, who will participate in the Q&A at the end of today's event. We'll end the webinar, time permitting, with an open Q&A panel discussion, so please don't hesitate to submit your questions throughout today's event. I'll also try to use some of them during our open discussion in real time if possible. But to start things off, we first wanted to ask a couple of questions of you, the audience, to see where your businesses stand from an omni-channel communication standpoint. So if we want to put the first question on there. We're asking, what types of omnichannel marketing medium are you currently offering your customers? And please select all that at apply. We have direct mail, commercial, print, digital, videos, radio, and currently offering none. If you could check those off, we'll actually report in real time the results. Okay, are the results coming in? All right, so as everybody can see there, direct mail followed by commercial, print, and digital, all fairly equal. And the second question we wanted to ask was, from your standpoint, what omnichannel services do you think they're important to your customers? Do you strongly agree, are you neutral, disagree, or strongly disagree? Okay, and we're tallying up the responses on that. All right, so definitely everybody feels it has value, and it's between strongly agree, and a few people at neutral. But as we know, it's the direction our industry is headed. So let's get rolling with the actual presentation portions. Jim Hamilton will be today's first presenter. Jim, take it away.
Well, thank you very much. It's great to be on this session. I'm looking forward to it. My presentation here is around Production Inkjet and the impact on omni-channel communications, and I'll really take it in two parts. So my first part will be on the Production Inkjet side, and then I'll show you some stats from the study that Mark mentioned. So first off, let's start with what's happening with U.S. production digital color print volume. So when you look at the marketplace, digital production color volumes totaled about 200 billion impressions in 2015, and they're growing significantly. We expect to see them exceed 350 billion by 2020. Now, it's split out here on this graphic between inkjet and toner. And toner volumes are growing significantly at around a 5% rate, but the inkjet volume is growing at nearly 19%. And ultimately what that means is that where color inkjet accounted for about 46% of the total production digital color page volume in 2015, it'll account for 62% in 2020. And what that means is that a very small installed base, thousands, 1,000, maybe 2,000 units or so, is driving more volume than the installed base of toner devices. And these are cut sheet devices going back decades, basically. So you can see that there's a significant amount of volume being driven. Now, between inkjet and toner, there's a very interesting gap, and I'd like to describe it in this form, where we look at products by acquisition price and by their overall throughput, and you can see that these are logarithmic scales. So if you identify where cut sheet toner color products fit, they're typically less than $1 million, and with speeds generally not exceeding more than about 120, 150 pages per minute. On the high-speed inkjet side, the continuous feed devices are very, very productive, and you can see that in terms of their overall throughput, but they're also fairly pricey. So acquisition price is typically $1 million or more. Now, as you look at this area in between, there's a range of products coming into that gap, but one of the areas that we think is the most interesting is what Infotrends has described as the zone of disruption. And these are typically very high speed, very productive inkjet products, some of which are cut sheet, some of which are narrow roll, some of which are 20-inch wide rolls that come in typically under $1 million or around $1 million or below in terms of their overall price. And that area is where we're seeing a huge amount of product activity, and it's going to compete some with those cut sheet kinds of toner products because of the high levels of productivity, reliability, and the quality levels that those devices can achieve. Now, recently, I have written a white paper on SuperWeb and their WebJet 200D. That's a piece that you'll be receiving as part of participating in this webinar. I'll give you a few highlights from that. And what I'd like to talk about first really is some of the key findings. Typically, getting in under that $1 million price point is important. And if you have volume capability in there of tens of millions of color impressions per month, that brings digital print into an area where it, at volumes that typically had not been achievable by toner-based products. And when you have a fixed cost that gets down in that $1 million range, then it allows users to be successful without having necessarily to produce tens of millions impressions per month on some of these devices. We've seen also very, very high-speed inkjet technology. I mean, when you look at these devices, 500 feet per minute is a typical kind of range for those products, and that's extremely fast. We've seen also that in looking at products like the WebJet 200D, is that vendors who offer some kind of customer participative service model, really it appeals to some classes of users where their operators can take on key types of service roles and then keep their overall running costs within reason because the operator is capable of doing some of those things. I think another aspect that I found very interesting in looking into the SuperWeb product is about what they can produce from customized integrated finishing. So this is a company that has worked with DD presses for a long time, understands the mechanical aspects of these movements very well, and is able to integrate its own or third-party finishing capabilities depending on the customer need. So I really came away from the piece with those findings. But one of the other interesting things we were able to do is get some end-user perspective. Alan, who you hear a little bit later on, was a great contact to talk to. Really has great feel for what the device brings to his place of business. But let me talk about some of the general quotes that I see as I look at commentary I hear from these folks. And the acquisition price really is a game changer for many of these folks. They didn't think necessarily that they could get into the high-speed inkjet market, and getting down, right around that $1 million range was a good fit for their budget and also hit the print volume requirements that they needed. As these users looked at existing sites where the 200D was running, seeing a device run at hundreds of feet per minute really is enough to convince someone who might have been a digital print skeptic in the beginning that really there's been a very significant shift in the marketplace as far as speed, productivity goes. And that productivity shift isn't just about overall productivity, but it also gives some increased level of burst speed for quick turnaround kinds of jobs, for really a nice level of flexibility along with that productivity. On the reliability side, I think as you compare inkjet and toner systems, the simplicity and the nature of inkjet systems is one that has helped to contribute to their overall reliability and their overall uptime. So that certainly has been a good benefit across the class of inkjet devices. Now, this type of service expansion that you might see is something that when you get these levels of productivity, you can bring a multi-channel approach with high-speed inkjet to applications like transaction, direct mail, promotional kinds of pieces, overall in customer communications that you might not have been able to do at that scale before. Now, certainly there's also some level of in-house automation that becomes a customer benefit for those sites that are doing transactional work or maybe direct mail work that requires a pre-printed shell. When you go from to a device with these kind of capabilities in color where you can work from a roll and go from white paper in to full color out, that really eliminates that logistical hassle of trying to keep upgrading existing pre-printed shells, when a logo change or companies are acquired or some kind of capability change happens there. And I thought one of the most fun comments that I heard was around the service model. Again, this is a device that's been designed so that the various parts are easily accessible, and what I heard one user say was, it has a room for a wrench. So they really can get in there in ways that they didn't feel that they've been able to do with other technologies. I think it's also an interesting perspective when you think about a company like SuperWeb that's not a huge bureaucracy, and so that the people who've been working with them feel like they really do have a direct line to the company decision makers. And then the last point I'd make in terms of end user commentary is that it's a very compact footprint for a continuous feed inkjet device. And so where users very typically are saying, okay, I've got to remove this device and I can put another device in its place, if that other device happens to be a lot larger, that may make it impossible to do so, particularly if you want to integrate in, let's say, perfing capability or stacking or something else like that, and the ability to fit your device into a compact space becomes really important. Now, I would say, too, that as you think about productivity and running costs and the kinds of things that are opening up that gap in the zone of disruption, there are a lot of other things that come into play when you get high-speed inkjet into the mix. And one of those is device flexibility, where you really can produce a mix of color, light coverage color, and black and white pages very cost-effectively in a single device. Ease of operation, where you have a single operator who can drive very large volumes, more than you could do with multiple cut sheet digital devices. I've mentioned white paper in, full color out workflows and eliminating offset pre-printed shells. But I think as you get rid of those shells, you also have flexibility to use variable colors in ways that you just couldn't do previously. And so that's an added benefit. And I often think of devices here as just-in-time document manufacturing systems. And to be able to do that is another key advantage of digital print. So let me do this. Let me shift to a few statistics that I'll talk about in regard to omni-channel communication, and then we'll shift to Alan, who has the real frontline experience on working with both of these technologies. So as you look at some of the stats that we've done recently, so this is from a study we did called Customer Engagement Technology, State of the Market 2016. We asked how important is it to print customer communications in full color versus just black and white. And you can see that both for promotional and for transactional output, very, very high responses. A little bit higher for promotional. If you total those two, very important and somewhat important together, it's about 87%. For transactional, somewhere in the 84% range. But it's key. It's key for moving for a variety of reasons, which I'll show you in the next slide. So as you think about the question that we might ask about the primary reasons for printing communications in full color, they tend to be very comparable both for transactional and promotional output. And when I say promotional here, I mean things like direct mail, for example. But brand image is very important. The leading response both on the transactional and the promotional side is that it strengthens our brand image. Next up, it makes it easier to read or review these documents. And so that's consistent across these two categories. And the third one also lines up. It's a competitive differentiator. It helps identify, the brand, the document, the producer of that document as a leader in the marketplace. Now, one thing we also see fairly frequently is, okay, how many of these documents, these customer communications, may be going to full electronic delivery? And so we asked that question in this study, and you can see somewhere around 33% or so is identified as electronic only. Now that leaves somewhere more like 67% that are either print only or print and electronic. And you do see some decline over 2 years. There is a pretty strong push to drive more documents to electronic. But what we've seen in the research that we've done is that many marketing or document owners overestimate how quickly they can move to electronic delivery entirely. And some of that is because their customers prefer to get documents in electronic form. There certainly is a trust level associated with receiving a document in print. And they also find that these types of documents that are sent out are looked at. And so getting those kinds of eyeballs, on documents, it's much harder to do than, let's say, with text messages or emails, which can be easily ignored. So at that point, I'll just make a couple of conclusions from these customer communications research points. Print continues to be an important component of customer communication. We find brand image, readability, and competitive advantages as the reasons why customers want to use full-color print. And as I said, end users may overestimate the speed at which they can move to all digital communications. Print remains an important aspect of it. So with that, I will leave you my contact information in case you have any questions. But Mark, I'll turn it back to you.
Oh, great. Thanks, Jim. Okay, today's final speaker is Alan Thompson, who I introduced earlier, and he's the co-owner of Flex Digital. Alan, take it away.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate everybody for being here, and we're going to start with this little promo.
Looking for a new agency? Good. You need one unless you have an army of writers, designers, and web developers. That's what all agencies have. Making you go, ooh, is what we're good at. Conjuring up memories of the good old days of advertising. Today, it's different. You need more than a pretty brand. With fragmented media and complex market segments, you need people who understand analytics. It's all here, waiting to spring into action. We're not changing that marketing. We're revolutionizing it. That's powerful stuff. We are Flex.
So, Flex is a 36-year-old company. We're family-owned, and we have 51 awesome employees. And you might wonder, how in the world do we get from mail to what we're doing now, which you see in the promo video. It was hard work and willingness to change and adapt to new strategies that were carefully built out through processes. And we're able to hit multimedia and change our name to Flex as a result of that. During the throes of the recession, with all the downward pressure on print and mail, we decided to focus on our creative abilities. We kept our talent, adding to our creative and programming groups. Our thinking was that as the economy healed, marketing opportunities would return, and controlling content would be a key position for us. We listened to our clients, their need to match across multiple medias, omni-channel, and we had all the talent and the processes to do it well. So we do transactional, direct mail, general commercial printing, print essentials, outdoor signage. And we're fortunate to have within our group programming and creative together. And I say all this in the most respectful way. We have doodlers and nerds that work together. And they also call it form and function, which probably makes more sense in a logical standpoint. But we are a lot of fun to work with. And we're doing web creation and development, web designs that fit across all types of formats and platforms. We use the latest and greatest styles like Parallax. We do demographic studies on data to come up with the proper lists that need to be used. We have business application development. We're heavy into transactional business apps where we're doing the back end, the SQL servers, the actual processes that make all of the forward-facing websites come to fruition. We do data mining for targeting our audiences, and we also do just full-fledged programming. So all in, we're doing this in a secured environment, and our processing meets the rigor of the financial industry. We do radio and TV. We're on site. We use drones. We also have our own little sound booth. Because we're from Alabama, we like to call it the outhouse. And we do commercials, instructional videos, kiosk. We write, we storyboard, and we produce, and we edit all internally. Social media is a big thing these days, and so as public relations and marketing needs to be addressed in that manner, we do that for our customers. We're big into the social engagement. We use digital advertising through those channels as well, Facebook and Twitter and other forms of social media for customer engagement and corporate culture. SEO, we manage the social engagement for several of our clients. And when you do all this, it's hard to describe us succinctly as a company, but to solve that problem, we just say these days that we are an ad agency with full production, a comprehensive one-stop shop for all of our clients' needs. So how does SuperWeb fit into this? Well, first and foremost, we never left mail. We never left print production. We do a lot of letters and notices and statements. 8.5x11, 8.5x14 are the primary formats for that. But some of you may be wondering, like, if the 4 pillars of direct marketing, the offer and the list and the timing and the creative, are those still true to form? And with us, it is. And with the firepower that we've got under our Flex umbrella, we noticed that we were missing a major part, like Jim had talked to earlier, on the zone of disruption. And he was spot on with that, because we did not have that offering in the marketplace. We didn't have a cost-effective variable option on our transactional side. And this limited us to competitiveness when we were going head-to-head against companies that focus primarily on transactional services. Well, now the gloves are off, and we're super competitive with our pricing, and we're also able to bring more content to the transaction and adding marketing to it. It lets us leverage our creative prowess to deliver a better message in the transactional side. And we look for about 1.5 years at many of the current options for inkjet production. And for us, the size of our company, it seemed that most seemed out of reach due to the size of the acquisition cost. But I have to say that once I saw the SuperWeb running, I was smitten. It was like a 30-second decision. At that point, I knew I wanted this press because of what it was creating. The image quality was superb. And for us, that was key and important because of both sides of our production. We're hitting both the transactional and the marketing side. And as you can see, we use a lot of heavy coverage. So SuperWeb now replaces a large portion of our offset shells. This saves time. It saves warehouse space. There's less waste due to overprinting and obsolescence. There's more control over the image. There's more effective variability on each page. The images you see in front of you, they have quite a bit of reverse type that's variable, web addresses that's variable, in addition to the name. And as that carries through, we can literally create each document to say whatever it needs to say with what we have in-house. So we're 3.5 months into having a SuperWeb, and we are learning, I would say, each day more and more about the overall cost and how dramatic the differences are between low and high coverage. But I can say that at this point, we're very, very well pleased, and our volume is more than 2.5 times higher than I was expecting when we first made this acquisition. And we've already captured significant business transitioning customers from offset who were initially reluctant by making color match samples to touch and feel. We put them in front of them, and they agreed they wanted to do it. Big advantage is that we're into rolls now. I can't tell you how much time we've spent over the past 15 years unboxing paper and opening up reams of paper and loading trays. Majority of what we do is just the regular paper. Now we're going to 1,000-pound rolls of paper, and we found a 28-pound treated sheet that is perfect for our marketing purposes. It gives the snap that's needed, and we found that it did not make a big difference in postage for statement clients, and we upgraded our transactional offerings to the same paper. Just by having that consistency in paper, which is better than what they're used to, and also since we're adding marketing to those statements as well, it just made sense for us to do that. And there are many other choices of paperweight and different brightnesses at different price points, but for us, we think we found the best overall sheet. One of the huge benefits, as you can see, this is the SuperWeb running some of our work, is the time that it's saved to produce. And I'll give you a for instance. For a typical statement run, which happens all throughout our month numerous times, we would run on our traditional toner-based black lasers about a 4.5 process from start to finish of a typical statement. Now we're able to run that same amount of work in 30 minutes, and we're now in color, and we're able to have a better message in doing so. So I got to admit, being exposed to this and working out in the back a good bit and seeing what's happening day to day, that I began to think that there's a lot of Goliaths that would be out listening in on this webinar that we're doing. And I must say, I think we found our David. Our commercial inkjet press, it's scalding fast. It speeds, we're running anywhere from 240 to 330 feet per minute, depending on the image qualities. But it is the image quality that caught my eye. In many cases, it rivals, is equal to, and in some cases exceeds what we're seeing in offset. And I'm not kidding about that. Image quality has won over our creative department, and they are very picky. And we've also been able to impress every customer to date that we've had see what we're able to produce for them when they're able to compare what we can print versus what they're used to printing on offset. So some of our mail is just that. It's not necessarily all omni-channel, but we do quite a bit of large runs, and we take in data and art, we compose, and we proof, and then we go. And for instance, here's a challenge that's come in the past week and a half or so. 150,000 out, duplex, needs to mail in less than a week. And just for kicks, how about 150 more in the same time frame? And for us, now it's no longer a problem. When you benchmark inkjet printing against toner and offset printing, the practical differences are the finishing gains, the easier flow through folding and inserting, less dust, less issues with static, less complications that we're used to having with lasers and the rollers gumming up with ink that is not quite dry. The amount of time saved, which I've already spoken to, and that there's no wasted print. We're not seeing pallets of paper at the end of a campaign that wasn't necessarily used having to go into a waste bin. And there's also the unlimited variability that we can put on each piece. So, what part does our creative team play with the SuperWeb? They're great for marketing. They leverage transactional by adding the marketing value and consistency. We're able to, on statements, in addition to inserts, which we do selective pocket inserts based upon data that drives those. Now we're doing onserts on the actual document itself that's tied to the information from core data dumps. Other big thing that our creative can do is they understand the many different file types that you have to deal with, and they're able to handle them. We've been doing creative for over 15 years, and we've seen everything. We call it Burger King around here because you can have it any way you want. So our experience in the trenches of trying to make things work that are put together not necessarily always by professionals, we're able to make it better, make it work, make it fly through. And also an understanding of process color and how meeting spot colors, it's a little bit more challenging on inkjet because the gamut is a little smaller. We're able to do very well so far in all of our instances. And we're also very pleased with the consistency of inkjet from page to page. There's just an incredible sense of relief when you're running production and you're not having to worry about whether the color is going to be consistent for that brand. So getting into some case studies, some actual, here we go, some omni-channel work. This is how we do what we do. First thing we do is we listen to our customers. We look for the areas of pain that they're experiencing and that we can address. And when we listen to a customer, we're not trying to sell them a package. We try to build a relationship. We learn what their industry is about, and we don't promote necessarily what we can do as much as what they need. So not every campaign that we do is mail-oriented. In fact, many of them come through here and are video-based or radio-based. And many of them are all together run at the same time for the purpose of hitting the clients wherever we can see that they're going to actually respond. So it's very important for us to listen and to be available for our customers in that respect. Once we've heard, we come back and work on marketing strategies. And we drive this with creative. We have programmers. We have a programming group that are just right down the hall. And a lot of times they'll come in and be involved in this, but primarily we drive with creative because of the fluidity that people that speak normal English are used to. It works better that way. So that's the form and function aspect of it. We're talking about form. And we drive decisions on what kind of marketing channels we're going to use as to who we're going to see and what we need to know when and how to use which channels we're doing. We make decisions how omni-channel marketed, omni-channel focused are we going to be, representing on average small to medium-sized companies, a lot of financials in the 200 to 500 million range who are very budget conscious, and they need results, and they need it on a budget that they can live with. So we have the ability to manage different creative and production functions in that. We coordinate the channels together for broad campaigns. For instance, there may be locations on the beach. There may be locations in small town Americana, and you have to have a different message in those different demographics within the same company footprint. And so we tailor the marketing efforts for those specific ways. And once we have come up with the ideas to propose, we go and meet, and it's where being an advertising agency has really helped us. It's become retainer-based instead of object-based, so we're no longer dealing with the pennies associated with each little piece, but we're more driving that relationship, and all of the pieces that go with it, we're able to produce and not worry as much about the actual cost, and we're not being shopped out because we're actually valued in that relationship. They want us to be healthy, they want us to be creative, and they want us to give our best step forward. And so the cost aspects of what we were used to in mail are no longer as important when driving the marketing mail. Once we've done the proposals, we listen again. Relationship is critical for us to make sure that we're getting what they want us to do. And once we've decided upon a plan, it's time to execute. And so we've developed most of our software is proprietary, and we have web-facing for customer usage and also our internal. And proprietarily, we've written a product called FlexView, and that is a cloud-based pass-through compliance. It's SOC 2 Type 2 secure, and it allows us to handle financial information, artwork. It handles proofing. It handles jobs. We tailor it to each individual customer and give them a web-to-print option for client materials, campaign materials that go to branches, and that ships out. So they're able to, as a customer, in between phone calls and face-to-face, at any time go online and order, 10,000 envelopes for this this branch or window clings for another branch, or just watch the process where we are in the making of their current video or radio ad. Many of our customers are able to do some of their own measuring. Many of them do not. And we have developed a product called Harvest for tracking response across platforms. We're able to see email blasts, how those are being measured, Facebook ad stats, Centro, Google Analytics, pixel code, did they buy the item, shows how effective the clicks are, and Twilio, which is phone tracking, which this is a part of the retainer-based. When they go on retainer with us, we're able to provide this as part of a roll-up to the whole process of being a Flex customer. And once that process is initiated and completed, upon hopeful success, we revise and we repeat. And I mentioned umbrella earlier, and we try to be sticky. We want an umbrella. We want to gather our customers into every aspect from the decision to the output of whatever the message is going to be, and give them everything that they ask us for. Some of them have the ability to do their own email blasts. Some of them have their own social media. Some of them have their own print. And so wherever they ask us to step in, we do. And we have found that as we've done that, we become stickier. They're providing an online ability to book and watch and approve their processes through us. They like that and tend to come back. So moving on to a specific campaign to show you omnichannel as it occurred. This is a beginning relationship with a good-sized credit union doing a Visa mail out, and we initially went out with 15,000 pieces, and they received a 10% response rate within 30 days. $500,000 in transactions for them. That was the Moolah Booyah campaign. Obviously, that's a high number. Not all mailings do that. You all well know that. That was a crazy response, but it garnered us a lot of attention and also a retainer. And from that, we have resultantly 3 more times within that same campaign, we made more drops to additional areas and moved on to other things, which billboard, building signage, their social media and web artwork that went along with that particular campaign, digital ads, drive-through signage, all of that. And these pieces can be used for contextual targeting and geo-targeting and hyper-local targeting. For instance, we've had success where in an arena stadium, we're actually throwing and garnering 80% of the digital ads for a client in an arena where their competition is actually supporting and paid the rights to market through. And we're hitting folks in the stands with with our clients' message to come do business with us. This year, similar iteration of the last year campaign. We're hitting it again, and due to the response and the complexity and the success of what we did a year previous, that's now staggered to handle response, and we're doing 10 times the volume of last year. So what started out as a 15,000 piece mailer is now 150,000 pieces. That's at the beginning anyway. All these jobs and hundreds of others that come from that because of the print materials that are being bought and distributed among the branches were all done by clients through our FlexView online ordering process. And in most advertising, churn, it's noted that about 18 months is the usual before ideas begin to soften and folks who want to go elsewhere, or maybe the relationship is not going where it needs to go. So we're well out of year 2 with this particular customer, and we have upped the retainer almost 40%. We are extremely engaged, and we're well into our next campaign of Think Local. So in this particular, we'll be doing omni-channel through TV and radio. In-store signage, in-branch posters, drive-through banners, outdoor galleries. Online elements for their web page, hero images and buttons and all the like. And then digital ads, which would be featured in Pandora Radio and social media posts and for retargeting. I believe this is misspelled. Oh, that's right. Okay. And guerrilla marketing, which is thinking outside of the box. So we've emblazoned Think Local on not just sidewalks, but water towers and the like around town, although the water towers were done through Adobe Creative Suite. And how does SuperWeb play into that? You know, as a part of that campaign, we are confident that we can put the letters out for those campaigns with the color and the speed that they need to hit at the right time. So you'll see on this one, can't see it close up, but there's a lot of variability, like loan balances and amounts that they can do skip a pay on are all at the bottom of a remittance with their name and so forth. But like I said, variability is something we can completely change the entire piece with. On to another omni-channel group. Here we go. Different credit union where we're doing statement inserts and in-branch window clings, and then even on the statement itself, you can see the transactional side showing through with some campaign information regarding mortgage, making that statement more valuable. They got to send it, right? We'll carry something good with it. In-branch merchandising. Here again, digital ads and social media, web landing pages, all matching and branding for consistency. That's one of the biggest advantages that I think we offer as a company to businesses that choose to work with us, is that we're able to be a one-stop shop, give them the complete branding opportunity, and look and feel across each campaign, across all of the media channels that we're doing, to where a consolidated message meets that potential client wherever it may touch them at. And with that, I'd like to thank you all for listening, and I'll hand it back.
All right, great. Well, thank you, Alan. Very thorough presentation. You know, we've covered quite a bit of ground on today's topic, but we've got a good 16 minutes, which is great, for some Q&A. So let's look at some of the questions that have come in. Alan, one of our viewers wants to know, how do you manage customers' expectations of the differences between offset, digital toner, and inkjet, and does it even matter to them at all?
It matters at the outset. We have a lot of customers that are loyal to offset, and we are too. We have print providers that we have long-standing relationships with, and we feed them as much as we can. And so it's a trust issue, and where we've been able to make them comfortable is by providing samples they can compare to previous campaigns, working with their existing artwork, and then making the decision really, as we go. And we're only, keep in mind, we're only 3.5 months into using the SuperWeb, but making the decision right there at the moment, are we going to go offset or digital? We have found that once they see those items, they are very happy to go with digital, knowing that it's going to be faster and seeing the type of paper that we use. So it's been a hesitant but welcome change for those that have done it so far.
Right. How do you communicate that value of inkjet? Obviously the white paper in is a huge benefit versus the shells, and gets rid of a lot of obsolescence. But how do you approach customers with that sort of that value proposition of inkjet?
Well, we have a triangle that we try to present everybody that's a customer, and that is quality, cost, and turnaround. And traditionally, I'm sure there's a lot of folks out there that know this, say, well, I'll give you two, I'm going to keep one. We're able to say, in the instance of inkjet, we can give you all three. You can have the quality, you can have the turnaround time, and you can have the price. So we've been able to make pricing better because we've saved so much. Like I mentioned, we're not doing the labor of undoing reams and reams of paper or loading tray after tray of offset shells, and quite frankly, fighting through oftentimes the traditional toner boxes to get things done. Not because they're not any good, because they are good. They've been doing it for years, but because some of the things that we load into them are challenging. It's not quite pancakes, but a lot of times the paper is still wet when it comes in. That's getting back to doing things quickly. So when a customer says, I got 5 days to get this out, can you do it? And we say, we can do it in 7 or 8 if we go offset. But if you would prefer to go inkjet, and here's a sample, by the way, we can meet that, and it's going to cost you less. So when you kind of throw it out there like that, it works.
Right. Do you have one of the viewers asked if you have like a break-even comparison of offset versus digital, and I assume that person's talking about run lengths. I mean, I know obviously when you get into variable, there are other issues involved, but say it's a mostly static job. Do you have a run length variable there, of whether you go digital or offset?
We're actually, because you can gang jobs through the RIPS on the SuperWeb, able to do some very small jobs because they're tied together, and you just separate them after they're printed. But keep in mind, whenever you turn on one of these beasts, you have a lot of paper at the beginning and at the end that's just white paper as it's starting and getting to registration and so forth. So we have it defined a certain number. We really play more into the repetitiveness of the customers, transactional and statement work. You can have several jobs in a day, and some of them can be quite small. If we're able to gang them, it makes sense. As far as like having a strict number that we would cut off, it goes deeper than that, because ink usage is, there's an art to it. And each time you start a new job, you're using a different cost per page. And so we're utilizing some formulas that were given us by SuperWeb to figure out what the images per piece cost to us, and we're learning more as we go. And we're just really trying to be cautious about pricing things to make sure that we're taken care of, but also be better for our customer. So that said, I wish it could be more direct, but there is an advantage to this model as opposed to what we're used to in the click model, where you pay a certain amount regardless of the amount of ink that you use. So if you're using very light coverage and that sheet of paper and the ink on it's a penny a piece or so, and you're paying a click fee that's quadruple that regardless, you can't be competitive. But in the case of being able to fine tune and see exactly what you're using and then go back to a customer and say, well, this is what I need to make in order to be able to keep the lights on and do the work for you, then you can do that. It just takes a little bit more time a little bit more finesse, and more, again, of a relationship with that customer to see it through.
Right. You mentioned paper, and Robert wanted to know what percentage of your work is done on coated stock, and do you use any inkjet treated stocks, or do you pre-coat yourself, or how are you handling that aspect?
Okay. For us, we have color toner boxes that we enjoy using. We run a lot of postcards on those, and we do a lot of glossy paper on those. The SuperWeb for us is pretty much strictly an 8.5 by 11, 8 by 14 format letter. That said, we don't think that there is a paper that we can use yet. We haven't been able to test any yet, haven't needed to, that would be coated. But we are using treated. And what we have found is that the treated paper that we're using, it's a Triumph is a sheet. It's a fantastic pop when the ink hits it. It gives us a good color. And we're buying that in bulk and really enjoying that paper. And you can choose other papers, but there's always time to load. And these are 1,000-pound rolls, so it's going to be, when you're fast at it, 10 to 15 minutes between rolls. If you're used to doing a cut sheet box, well, that's just setting a tray, unwrapping a ream, and throwing some paper in there. It's different. And so we had to learn to approach that differently. And for us, we found that we would enhance the paper, thicker, wider, better pop, to meet all of our marketing requirements, and at the same time upgrade our transactional, which they've all been happy about. It's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah. One of the questions that came in actually was submitted when somebody registered for the webinar. They wanted to know whether uncoated textured papers generate greater response than coated papers, and whether any special finishing techniques, how that impacted customer engagement and response rates, and even the color choices of the paper. What have you found with your experience?
Well, for us, bright whites are great. It really gets back to the fundamentals of marketing. You've got to have the right message. You got to have it at the right time. You got to have the right list. And the creative, my folks are listening, so I have to be careful, right? No, I'm just kidding. The creative to me, it's hard to really measure exactly what creative does. I just know that it makes life better. It makes life fun. So I extrapolate that to when I open a piece of mail at home and it's logically laid out and it's just boxy information versus something that sings to me, that I tend to read what sings. So I guess if you were to classify me as one of the nerds or one of the doodlers, I'd be a doodler, and that really gets me. So I think the creative aspect of it is very important. We have been able to do a lot of creative on lesser papers and still have good results. So, but for us, we prefer a better sheet. And I know the SuperWeb can run all types. We know that there's a uncoated sheet that's used in our marketplace that runs really, really well, but it's just not the paper for us.
Hey, Mark, if I could add something to this. This is Jim.
Sure.
I don't know of any studies that have been done around response rate based on, let's say, just the type of paper or a textured paper, but certainly an uncoated texture paper might give that sort of look that would jump out and actually make Alan pick that up when he looks at it at home. And I think there are a lot of people who would feel that way. But I don't know of any statistics along those lines. Certainly in regard to die cutting and folding, if people haven't seen what Trish Witkowski does with the Folding Fanatic and some of those things, those are always great to look at. And I'm sure that they get interesting responses. Those tend to be, I think, for, like invitations, shorter runs, high-value kinds of pieces rather than long direct mail runs or transactional kinds of documents.
Yeah, good
yes,
point.
and I would agree with Jim on that. We do a lot of that on our color toner boxes on our cut sheet for the smaller runs when you're really trying to make that smaller, that lighter impact. But with the SuperWeb, we're buying truckloads of paper, and so if you buy a very expensive paper that you would normally do a small run on, it just doesn't make sense.
One question that always comes up with printers that have adopted inkjet is the sales training side. Alan, how did you train your sales force to sell the capabilities of inkjet, and how much of a struggle was that?
It was easy. Are you kidding me? No, it was. It's a work in process. The print industry's changed so much, and it's been really hard. And that's why I said we got to where we are because we did the hard work. We didn't give up on our talent. We hunkered down through the recession. I believe that creativity was worth something, even as we're getting more and more ways to receive media. You watch video in your car, that kind of thing. We were losing a lot of our edge, a lot of our second sources in our editing. We weren't paying for that as a nation. So I thought when things got better, we would have the creative down, be ready. So that's very important for us. And so we've been at it for a long time, and our people know what we can do. We're very proud. I'm like a grandfather to these folks. I love bragging about them because they do such good work. And our CSRs who deal with them daily, they know that. And so that part of it's pretty easy because you want to go with us because you can trust us. We're going to do a good job. The technical aspects of moving over to SuperWeb are not that much different than the toner-based that they're used to once we got all the services into our system and price points and that sort of thing to where they could choose them and add them. And then it was a little bit of forcing. And then after the initial dive in, there was an adoption almost across the board at this point. And to give you one of the hardest sales that we have in our plant is our production manager, our human dynamo. And she was one of the first and the loudest to sing for everyone to move things over. So having her in production come forward to creatives and CSRs and say, please move it here because I'll get it out quicker. I'll do it better. Just do it. So that helped a lot. But it's still a work in process.
Right. One question I had, you were talking in your presentation about that you kind of present yourself as an agency that happens to have production capabilities. Has that ever got you in hot water with actual agencies out there that maybe, aren't printers, that feel maybe you're kind of stepping on their toes? Have you had scenarios like that, or is that not really an issue?
Well, the gloves are off. There's no hiding it. So, right. Yeah, there can be those issues. They're not hollering. They're not calling. But right. We're busy, and so I'm not that concerned about it. And there's plenty of work to be done these days in marketing because the economy is healing, and there is money to be spent again. It's been a while, and people need help on putting the right message out there to be able to garner their share of it. So we're not so much concerned about it, but I think that it's a valid point to make. If you're a print vendor and you've been the Gickley quality printer for years for a certain ad agency, and you start doing this stuff, you better be ready to go on your own because you may be.
Right. Right. But certainly the worlds are merging together, and there's no question about that in terms of the types of services that different companies offer. So, it gets to be a bit of a gray area. Just curious on your web-to-print system that you created, which you said was proprietary. How long did it take to develop that system?
We built it on the back end of our invoicing, which turned into jobs and management. And I would say it's still being changed. We revise it perpetually. Recently went through version 2.0 upgrade that's forward-facing, but about a 6-year process.
Mm-hmm. To get and what percentage of your customers are using it?
I don't have that figure. It's a lot. For right. Instance, if you're placing orders, one of our customers, 15 to 20 branches, they're placing, 5 to 15 orders on any given day. well over 1,000 orders in the past year. And that can be 10,000 envelopes, it could be one poster, or it could be 80,000 pieces of mail. So that's a lot of orders. We have one customer who they book with us throughout the course of a day, several jobs that tie together. And at the end of the month, we've done 250 jobs for them. And those are all going through FlexView. So it's very important for us. And also to point out that it's SOC 2, Type 2 is the audit process that we put on it. We had one of the bigger financials in the Southeast go against it with their hacking software to see if it could pass the muster, and we passed the test. So we're proud to have it. Again, it was one of those hard things we started on a long time ago. It's almost like we are ready now. I'm so excited to be a part of this company because where we're headed, we've got all these pieces, and I know how hard it is to make it, and yet we've got it. And my hat's off to anyone else that can do it and wants to do it. In my regard, our biggest issue was to have that niche filled with the quality color that the SuperWeb gives us, and because of that, having it now, there's really nothing that we're not offering that I wanted us to be able to offer this time a year ago.
All right.
So,
well, unfortunately, those are going to have to be the closing words because we've run out of time for today. On behalf of Printing Impressions, I want to personally thank Alan, Jim, and Jim for participating, and SuperWeb for sponsoring this educational event, and especially you, our audience, for attending today's webinar. Be sure to check out our webinar page to get information on all our archived and upcoming webinars. And if you just take a minute to fill out the brief feedback survey that will appear on your screen next, we'd be most grateful. Your feedback will influence the webinars that we bring you in the future. I hope to see you at the next Printing Impressions webinar. Thanks for joining us. Hello, and welcome to the live